Why you wore that Trump hat in here? Tell me about this Trump hat.
I'm a die-hard Trump supporter. In my household, you got Martin Luther King, you got Jesus, and you got Donald Trump.
Wait a minute.
Not in that particular order, but yeah, you got Martin Luther King, Jesus, and Donald Trump.
Why you got Donald Trump? Now, you know, well, I'm a straight Democrat, but I'm for the best person.
Yes,
but
sir.
Now, why you got Donald Trump?
Because I paid attention in school when I was a kid, and so I know the true history of both the Republican and Democratic Party. I know that they really didn't switch during the Nixon Southern strategy. That one became more clever than the other in dealing with black people. We the Democrats, we got away. We were the Republicans' friends. We were their friends, but we were the Democrats. When you look at the origins of the Ku Klux Klan, it originated out of the Democratic Party.
The Ku Klux Klan?
It did.
Okay.
Every civil rights legislation that ever has been passed in this country was authored, written, sponsored, and voted on 100% by Republicans and not Democrats. Every civil rights legislation.
Well, what you gonna do?
So let me ask you a question about Trump.
Right.
So as a kid, I remember being 6, 7 years old and seeing Donald Trump receiving an award with Muhammad Ali, Rosa Parks from the NAACP. Not only that, he engaged and interacted in our culture from the 80s throughout the 90s and even the 2000s, from rappers to Michael Jackson. So when we looked out into our culture, his face appeared many, many times. So for me to grow up now and then hear the media, because before the media started saying he was racist, I never heard a black leader say it. I never heard my grandmother say it. I never heard no one even mention anything bad about him other than rappers giving him praise in over 300 to 600 rap songs. So for the media to say, oh, he's racist, I knew they were playing con on us. And I can remember when America was great. I can remember when black children could play outside all day long and you didn't hear about kids being kidnapped. You didn't hear about drive-by shootings.
And I'm going to take it a step further. We need to start snitching. I can't wait to tell on a nigga. If I chose a citizen life and I'm an everyday going to work ass person and you over here holding my grandmother up at knife point, I got to get you out of here because I don't want to go to jail for killing you and I'm not going to let you run rampant in my community. Get his black ass out of here.
I get paid to snitch now, nigga. It's really classified. I can't even really talk about this shit, my nigga. 30 years!
And I'm going to say this too. Some of these well-to-do black men need to start carrying arms and policing their own community so that some of these kids can go to school and get an education without having to carry a gun. And I'm going to scream this till my lungs burst. Y'all can unfollow, y'all can dislike, y'all can get the fuck out of here. I made this channel to speak my mind, and that's what I'm going to do. Desegregation was one of the worst things that ever happened to black people because as soon as they got the chance, they took the money out of their own neighborhoods and ran to them white establishments that they thought was better than the establishments that their own families built. And another thing it did is it took the bourgeoisie black people and moved them out of the neighborhood. So those smart guys that look like us that should have been in the neighborhood being a good influence, they left because it turns out if you a dentist and you on your way to work, you don't want to have to worry about being shot. It turns out if you want to have a nice truck in your driveway, you don't want to have to worry about being robbed, so you can't even blame them. About 6 months ago, I took my wife to a brunch place to chill out, listen to good music, eat some good food around a bunch of people that look like me. An hour and a half later, I was kicking the door open and pulling my wife to the ground because we ended up in the middle of a gunfight. And I thought to myself, in what other community does a person who makes the amount of money I make go to an establishment and have to worry about getting shot at around people that look like them? In no other community is that a concern. So I do understand that those bourgeoisie black people do have an obligation to their communities, but at what point as a man am I going to prioritize the safety of my own family? Everybody want to play the blame game. But with 79% of black babies being born out of wedlock, that's something we're deciding to do to ourselves. And how are you going to compete? How is a single mother household going to compete with an Asian American household that has 2 incomes? And unfortunately, America is a capitalistic society. It's pay to play. If your economics ain't right, you will not be taken seriously. How are you going to raise good leaders to represent your community on the national stage if you don't have families? The civil rights movement was backed by family economics. You don't get a Martin Luther King. You don't get a Malcolm X. You don't get a Black Panther Party without black families that are able to finance against them. So maybe instead of telling our kids fuck the police, you inspire some of those kids to become police officers so they can police their own communities. But you can't do that if you're pushing out all the black bourgeoisie people because it's unsafe in the neighborhoods. And you can't make the neighborhood safe with a bunch of single mothers. It just ain't gonna happen. The black community got a lot of work to do before we can start blaming other communities on our problems. Because how I see it at this point, we are our biggest problem.
If you see me and you tryna see what's up, he wanna fuck with me, then I'ma have him stuck. When you see me, tell you gotta say what's up. He wanna be on my roster, but it's all good.
I've been accused of having sold out. And I find this actually quite interesting because I've actually given this a great deal of thought. Black marriage rates were significantly higher before the civil rights movement compared to after. Children were more likely to grow up in a two-parent household before the civil rights movement as opposed to after. Black men were more entrepreneurial and more self-reliant before the civil rights movement as opposed to after. And so for me, when I look at my own life and I look at my own values, they are more indicative of the average Southern black man prior to the civil rights movement. And so I haven't sold out. I've kept in continuation with my father, with my great-grandfathers and my great-great-grandfathers. I'm a continuation of that. I've maintained that culture. If anyone has sold out, it's you all. It's Black culture. Y'all sold out the entrepreneurial spirit, the family unit. Y'all sold out of that in pursuit of what? The entertainment industry's version of what Black culture is. If voting is any kind of measure of where a person stands in terms of how they identify, the fact that 90+% of Black folks vote for Democrats, the party that basically reinforces everything the entertainment industry says Black culture is, if anyone has sold out, it's those who insist upon the modern entertainment culture that you now call Black culture. I'm not the one who sold out, sir. You are.
My thoughts exactly. Everything that made Black American culture amazing got flipped upside down. It's to the point where if you're an articulate black man, other black people will tell you you ain't black.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Everybody wants diversity in the black community except for diversity of thoughts and opinions. And the thing is, our grandmothers and grandfathers taught us better than that. Before you went into that store, your grandma told you, pull up your pants, don't embarrass me in front of these white people. Because she understood that we are a part of a minority group and culture. So in order to represent yourself in the majority, you have to be able to assimilate into that culture. How you gonna be able to get the job if you walk in there with your pants sagging talking about, hey man, say man, woody woody woo. Other black people might be able to understand you, but they gonna think you retarded. How you gonna talk yourself out of a situation with the police or represent yourself in front of a judge if you can hardly speak the language? They gonna think you did it. To be honest, the black community has a habit of pushing out well-to-do, especially well-to-do conservative black men. They call them lames, they call them boring, and they make fun of them until they become successful from their principles, and then they go, why you ain't helping out the community? Y'all niggas shame me because I wanted to read a book instead of throwing a football, and now that I reap the benefits, you expect me to help you? What I'm basically trying to say is presentation is everything, especially if you are part of a minority group, and shaming the people who want to be better is a recipe for disaster. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a